So, what does the general public see in a school? Is it the staff? Or do they see the parent nights that we hold? Or does the general public see the school building? Or do they see the students? Or do they see the test scores?
Might well be underway, but we're finally getting test results from the latest statewide assessment.
And once again, most Arizona students failed the state's assessment tests in English and math. Kylie is crunching the numbers, joining us live this morning to tell us how many of our students are falling behind.
So this morning, we're taking a closer look at the numbers and the data just released by the Arizona Department of Education. Let's go ahead and put it up on your screen right now. Overall, we know that 41% of Arizona students passed the English language arts section, meaning about 60% did not pass, while only 33% passed the math section, meaning about 2/3 of students failed it. Now, this is a small improvement over 2021. English scores are up by about 3%, while math scores saw a 2% bump compared to last year. But bottom line, most students are failing, at least according to this data.
Do the test scores matter? And what do they show? Well, I always tell my fourth graders the scores on the test are kind of a measure of your success. Where are you at on your journey of learning? And the public sees that journey, so it matters. The question is, can we enhance it? Can we improve our test scores? And if so, how? So how do we begin to delve into the answer to that question? Well, I think we want to start by looking at the categories on the state test. The general score tells us something, but the categories tell us a lot more. And so in the realm of reading, the first category is reading for information. And the second one is reading for literature. And the third and last one in the reading part of the test is writing and language. And then in math, the three categories are operations, algebraic thinking, and numbers in base 10. Second one in math is numbers and operations and fractions. And the last category is measurement, data, and geometry. So step one would be each teacher would analyze their own scores, they'd look at each category, and then they would celebrate and set goals. For example, with my students in fourth grade in ELA, the overall score was 54% were proficient or above, and that was 24 students. And so in that, 16% were highly proficient, that was 7 students. 38% were proficient, that was 17 students. And 22% were partially proficient, that was 10 students. And 24% were minimally proficient, and that was 11 students. So on the confidential roster report, there's a lot of information we can gather about how we did. And so certainly there's all the information about the general big score that we had, same thing over here. But if we look down below, they have a label for each student in each category. That's what can tell us how we're really doing. So the little warning sign, of course, is below mastery. Those are the areas we're worried about and want to help students in that area. And then the check mark is at or near mastery. And that makes your percentage of success higher because they take kids that are near mastery as well. And then, of course, you want the plus where students are above mastery. So what I did was I just counted up in each category how many students I had at each level of proficiency. So it was very quick and easy to do. And then the next step was I plotted them out to look like that. For example, here at the top, we have reading for information. And I had 35% that were below mastery in that, 35 near mastery or at mastery, and 29% above. So overall, 64% were at or near mastery or above. So that tells me a lot. And then when I look at reading for literature, only 22% were below mastery in that category, and 44% were at or near mastery, and 33% were above, which made 77% be at or near mastery or above. And then in the last category, writing, 22% again were below mastery. That was 10 students. And 24% were at or near mastery. And the exciting thing for me was that 53% were above mastery, which was 24 students. So once again, 77%, 35 students were at or near mastery or above. And so this tells me a lot of things. It tells me that my biggest need in my teaching is to focus on reading for information. That's where I had the poorest scores, and that's what I want to work on the most. And then I had a lot of students that were near proficient. They were on that bubble. And so I have to work on how I can get them up to, the proficient stage rather than near proficiency. And so those are my goals. Down here, the writing was definitely my celebration. So as we look for ways to replicate success, and then we look across our system to see who had high scores in certain areas and what did that success look like, that's what we're going to try to figure out. So in the realm of just writing, what does good writing look like? Well, in my case, we had a workshop a number of years ago where they told us that what businesses are looking for in the future is kids that can communicate. Isn't that exciting? It wasn't computer skills. No, it was can they communicate? And so since then, I tried to find ways to spice up the writing and make it reach out to the reader. So I do what I call advanced writing. And so here's a list of the things that my students did to get a high score on that test. One is to use main idea hook questions. They engage the reader, they make the reader think. And so I found that those really do help. So I usually start the year out with helping students learn how to do a good question hook. And so this, for example, we were reading on ReadWorks about someone who fixed their sister's bike and they turned it into an experiment. And so his hook questions were, have you ever helped someone's bike or maybe a toy that needed to be fixed? And so he totally hit the main idea, which we want to do, where he's talking about fixing something. But then he also added another good hook question. You want to be a scientist when you grow up? Because the dad helped the girl turn the whole fixing into an experiment. So that was a beautiful main idea hook question. And then his third main idea hook question was to help by testing out which one works, which was a central part of the story as well. And so the main idea question hook, it's a little bit subtle. You don't want to give it away, but you want to intrigue the reader into thinking about those cool things. So we do like 2 or 3 essays a week, and it's on Google Classroom, and then the students beg to have their writing be shown. And so when we show everybody's writing and their main idea question hooks, everybody wants to do it. And so that's kind of the trick in making that to happen. And then there he goes on with his evidence. So another cool example, we were reading, it was called The Magic Glasses in ReadWorks. It was about a little girl who hated her glasses, but once she put them on and could see, she was excited. And so his main idea hook questions here were, have you ever changed your opinion about something? He totally nailed the main idea because the girl changed the opinion of her glasses. And then he said, have you ever changed your life? Yeah, and the girl did that too. So beautiful hook questions that engage the reader, make the reader think, and it's so much better than just a plain old boring main idea sentence that might be like, there was a girl who changed her opinion about glasses. I mean, who wants to read that? Nobody. So a main idea question hook really revs up the writing and will bring you a high test score as well. But it's more importantly, it's a skill they want to know for the rest of their lives. So the next strategy that makes writing really look good is using background. Background is everything you can see and hear and smell and taste and touch. And so we started doing a lot more of that this year, and it made our score go up even more. So here are some examples of using background, just a beautiful strategy in writing. And going hand in hand with background are using vibrant words. And so we learn what adjectives and adverbs are and nouns and verbs in our writing when we're actually writing, because that's what we're learning to do well, to give us a picture, is to use vibrant words in all of those categories. How we use background. And so he starts out, and notice too, he's using a lot of vibrant words. We learn how to do adjectives and adverbs and powerful verbs and nouns. And so you'll hear that in this as well. So it's another skill that we add throughout the year. But in this case, he's got both of them. Yeah. Shh, shh. The lonely, biscuit-colored, spunky camel trotted through the burning tannish sand as the hot, gleaming sun shined on his dirty skin. So that was what was happening in the desert, but now he's switching to another animal, which was in the Arctic. On the bottom of the earth, snap. The Arctic fox snatched the white polar bear's freshly caught fish and dashed toward the woods. When an angry polar bear turns its head around, all it sees is a dead frog, or is it dead? And so he's giving us a beautiful picture. Here's another one. We were reading about rabbits that went to a place called Carrot Beach. Well, really, it was a carrot patch. And so she's starting out with her background. The eager deer was munching on the glimmering green grass. The butterflies fluttered around the boiling winds. The baking sun blazed over the farm. The vegetables grow tall and strong. The moist grass was as mucky as slime. And then here comes her hook questions. Have you ever gotten lost at the beach? Perfect main idea hook, because the rabbits got lost. And the rabbits also were trying to get a tan. So she asked another good hook question. Do you sunbathe? And you sometimes think it's hot at the beach. So because the whole story was about the heat and the sun, and so it's beautiful. And then she continues on with her evidence. In this case, we were reading multiple articles about should elementary students take naps. And so here's what this person wrote. Screech, the coral bus stopped at the third stop. Yawn, you cried as you shuffled off the bus. Finally, you arrived at home. You were planning on hopping on with your friends till you see your cozy bed as if it's looking at you. One little snooze won't hurt, right? And so what a beautiful background paragraph, just setting us up for, hey, should elementary students take naps? And then comes this hook questions. Do you know how important napping is? How long do you usually sleep? And then he goes on with his evidence and with more questions. Are you drowsy and tired throughout the day? Do you know how sleeping can be good for you in different ways? And then he goes on with his beautiful evidence. And that's what good writing is. Yahoo! So, of course, the main idea hook questions in the background, they're kind of the dressings of the essay that make it kind of cool and fun to read. But you know what? The meat of the essay, the heart of the essay is the evidence. And so we always know what the question is first. Make sure students know what the question is, because they're going to be gathering evidence as they read. And so they take notes so that they have a lot of beautiful evidence to put in their essay. They organize their ideas. And so evidence is really the most important part of the essay so that they can answer that question. As far as evidence goes, what we always want to do is know what the question is. We were reading about a boy named Omer who was learning how to do pearl diving, which involved a lot of pain and a lot of stress. So the question was, what were Omar's struggles in pearl diving? And he has his hooks at the beginning. And then what we do is we take notes, when we're reading, to answer that question, because it really helps when we do that. He freed his foot from the rope and blinked. Sparks flashed before his eyes and a drum pounded in his head. Waves of light shimmered at the surface, but down below was a foggy road. So beautiful writing, and ends with just a beautiful question. How would you face your fear of diving? Wow, way to go. So the last two pieces of the writing process are indeed the most painful, and the first one is just to revise. Hey, does your essay answer the question? And does it make sense? And did you put the things in logical order? And could you explain more? I mean, there's a lot of things to do to revise. Yeah, it's a big part of the writing process. And then, of course, to edit to the periods and the capital letters are huge and so important to the writing. revise and edit. And so we do a lot of things for that. One thing we do every day is BT's daily grammar. It really helps with periods and capital letters because that will wreck your score if they don't have those. I also have students, sometimes we'll take an anonymous essay and we'll all revise and edit it. So they'll get in like maybe groups of 2 or 3 and they'll dive into that essay and rip it apart to revise it and make it good and edit it as well. So they get used to thinking just because you write it doesn't mean it's perfect. And so revise and edit it is part of making really good writers as well. And it takes a lot of steam, as we all know, to get those periods and capitals into their essays. So what becomes the beacon of light that we fix our eyes upon, that we focus on, that we look for all year long? You know what? I think it's the categories on the state test. That's our driving force. And we're going to use BT and Common Lit and all those good things to get to that. But this is what we are focused on. It's those 6 categories that show up on the state test. And thus begins our search to find success and replicate it, and to make that success become a common best practice within our great school. Well, how might we do that? Well, I think we want to look and see which staff in our schools excelled in one of those areas, because we're going to pick their brains. We're going to learn from them. We're going to look at, hey, what did they do? And how did they do it? And can we learn from them? And can we replicate it? Bigger yet is, can we replicate it and have it become a common practice? So I think in our Operation Replicate Success, probably the first step is we formed 3rd through 8th grade subject band PLCs. Yep, and we meet weekly. And we look at those 6 categories, and for each subject band it's only 3, and we learn the best practices. So we'll probably learn them on Friday, but then the next week we're going to practice them in the classroom, and then we're going to come back the next week and share success. And the cool thing that's going to happen in that is we're going to learn so much from the entire staff, because no one person knows it all. No, but we all know bits and pieces, and we're going to share those and collaborate and celebrate. And we're going to soak up that grassroots celebration. It's going to be amazing, all focused on the success of our kids and of our school. And it's huge too to make this become a big deal. I look, well, like with my 4th graders, I talk it up all year long. I show them those 4 categories they can aim for. Do you want to be minimally proficient? Is that what you really want? Or partially proficient? Or do you want to zoom up and head for proficient or highly proficient? And what are you going to have to do, to do that? Yeah, you're going to have to focus. You're going to have to work. And then we celebrate success every day. When the students do their writing, and we put it up on the screen, and oh my gosh, we just celebrate it. And that makes everybody kind of climb on board to reach that success. And so in those PLCs, we're going to collaborate success all year long with the subject band staff. When teachers will come and they'll share their writing samples from the year. In fact, there's a big empty space to the right of my bulletin board where we can have the essays of the week for each grade right there at that spot. And we're going to celebrate those. We're going to celebrate the comprehension too, the reading, and with some plain common sense practices as well. But then I think we want to reward student and teacher team success. I think, we do pizza parties for the MAP test scores, but did that help us on the big test, the state test? Did it? Well, maybe it didn't, And so what we could do is have a celebratory assembly at the beginning of the year to celebrate the heroic work from the students the previous year. And that'll set off the stage for the new year that, hey, you know what? I want that success this year too. It's all about that success. So with our fourth graders this year, because we talked up success all year long, we told them, hey, you know what? If you show success on that state test, we're going to let you wear a symbol of that success. So if our students got proficient on the math and or the reading, they would get one wristband. If they got highly proficient and really zoomed to the top, they would get 2. So some students are earning 4 wristbands. And we told them, you get to wear these as a symbol of your hard work, of your success. And if we do this across the school, something like that, find out what would be the best incentive for students, but also teachers. It's like, oh my gosh, we could take success to just the highest levels ever. And wouldn't that be awesome?